Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. It's a pleasure to see you all here today. My name is Jane Shodel. I'm the lead programmer for the Special Presentations program. Why, thank you. I'd like to welcome you to the Canadian premiere of Empire of Light, written and directed by Sam Mendes. We are pleased to welcome you into the Visa screening room at the Princess of Wales Theatre. Thank you to our longtime major sponsor, Visa Canada. I would like to thank our lead and major sponsors, RBC, Bell, and Bulgari, for their continued support. Thank you to our major supporters, the Government of Canada, the Government of Ontario, Telefilm Canada, and the City of Toronto for their continued support. This film is eligible for the People's Choice Award. Vote for your favorite films at tiff.net/vote. And we would like to thank Searchlight Pictures for providing us with this film. Thank you. The films of Sam Mendes show a great diversity in subject matter and genre, and they are also consistently excellent viewing. From American Beauty, which had its premiere here at TIFF in 1999, and for which Mendes won the Oscar for Best Director and the film Best Picture for a total of 5 Oscars, to Road to Perdition, Jarhead, Revolutionary Road, Skyfall, Inspector, and most recently, the Oscar-winning 1917. The story of Empire of Light is loosely centered in and around a grand cinema, the kind with a huge proscenium and red velvet drapes and upholstered seats, a little like the one you are sitting in now. But mostly the kind we rarely see anymore, and the staff who work within this cinema palace, the ushers, the projectionist, the concession staff. Empire of Light captures a specific and pivotal time in the socio-political landscape in Britain as well. There is a love story at its core, and it is cloaked within a respect and appreciation for the cinema-going experience, but even more so, what that experience represents. It is, as we are doing here today, sitting together in the dark, facing forward, waiting with excitement to collectively experience something magical. We're very pleased to have an opportunity after the screening to have some conversation with our guests, but please join me in welcoming back to Toronto, Sam Mendes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jane. Hello. It is such a total delight to be back in Toronto. Like Jane said, it's nearly a quarter of a century ago that American Beauty debuted right here, and I kind of marked that as the beginning of my film career, and I marked the Toronto audience as the first audience that ever took a movie of mine to their heart. So if any of you were around 25 years ago, thank you for that. I have a number of people to thank and then a number of people to introduce before the movie starts. I want to say a huge thank you to Cameron Bailey and everyone at TIFF for their incredible and warm welcome as ever. And I want to say thank you to Searchlight, to David and Matthew and Katie and Michelle and Rebecca and everyone at the Searchlight team who've been true friends and collaborators on this movie from the very beginning. So thank you to Searchlight. I've got a few people to introduce up here. The first is a person I've known since I was 14 years old, and just by a miracle, an accident of fortune, she also happens to be the best producer I know, a truly tenacious, wonderful, wise, generous human being, the producer of this movie, Pippa Harris. Next, a man I have been lucky enough for the last 15, 16, 17 years to work with, a legend in his own bath time, and also a knight of the realm, Sir Roger Deakins, ladies and gentlemen. He's such a rock star, isn't he, really? Anyway, somebody who graces this movie comes in at the most difficult time for any actor, which is the second half of a picture, and boy, does she make her presence felt. Her mum is here, also from Ottawa, and I can tell you, Tanya's mum, she's amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, Tanya Moody. Next, a young actor who is way ahead of his years in terms of skill and gentleness and kindness and empathy. We're all going to be saying we worked with Micheal Ward before he was a huge movie star. Micheal Ward. And last but by no means least, she's glorious, she's gorgeous, she's just a tiny bit vulgar. She's also one of the great actresses of the world, and I have a little bit of a crush on her. Olivia Colman. Thank you for that, everybody. Listen, we live in a cynical time, and this is a deeply uncynical movie. I hope you take it to your hearts. We love it. We hope you love it too. Please enjoy it. Thank you very much.
We're very pleased to have an opportunity to have a bit of a moderated conversation with our guests here. So in the interest of time, because we want to make the best of all the moments that we have, I'd like you to please join me in welcoming back producer Pippa Harris. Cinematographer Roger Deakins. Actress Tanya Moody. Micheal Ward. Olivia Colman. And director Sam Mendes. Congratulations to you all on a stupendous film. Thank you very much. Sam, I wanted to start with you. May I call you Sam?
Yes.
Thank you.
Have you got another secret name for me, Jane?
Yes, the illustrious, talented one. That's right. This feels.
I prefer that, yeah.
Oh, all right. Okay. This feels like an intensely personal film from you. Can you speak a little bit about the genesis of the story for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's personal without being autobiographical, which is quite a difficult thing to explain, you know. The main part of it that's personal is the journey of Olivia's character, Hilary, is loosely based on the journey of my mother, which is a journey through mental disintegration to the point where she put herself back together again, and as a sort of cycle, which I think a lot of people who've dealt with mental health issues, either themselves or with family members, have witnessed that cycle of medication, coming off medication, elation and hyper mania, effectively, and then a crash. And I think it's one of the things that's very rarely talked about properly in movies or elsewhere. And there's still a stigma about mental illness, I think. It tends to be brushed under the carpet. So that was something that had haunted me since a child. I grew up with it, and it was very much part of my life and part of why I am who I am, and I ended up doing what I'm doing. But then it was combined with a number of other things. The period, which is when I was effectively Stephen's age, the early 80s, the music that defined me, the movies that defined me, the way that popular culture offered me an escape from what was going on at home, offered me a way out, as it often does with people, art, a way out of crisis. And it was a time also when my racial opinions and racial politics were very divisive at the time, as they still are in many ways. And all of these things were going around my head during lockdown when I tried to write the script. Period of self-examination, as all of us did, that feeling that maybe all of this was gone. Maybe we'll never be here all sitting together in a dark room watching a story. Maybe that was it, and maybe we didn't know how lucky we were while we had it. And so I was drawn back to that time on a number of levels. So all of those things, I think, went into the making of it and the writing of it.
Thank you.
By the way, I wanted to say thank you to my mum before the movie, but there were lots of people to introduce. And I wanted to say thank you for living through that period of grief and difficulty and bringing up on her own a very vivacious and annoying young boy. So I've said it.
Thank you. When you were writing, were you writing with Olivia in mind?
I don't want to make her ego any bigger than it already is, but yes. Yes, I was. Yes, I was. I didn't know Olivia, but I was a fan, and it just seemed kind of inevitable. I don't know why. I saw her playing the dearly beloved and departed Queen on television, and I just saw every thought cross her face, every moment. She was so translucent, and I just looked at her and I thought, oh, that's Hilary. And so that was a bit of a beacon throughout the process. And it was just a thrill when she said yes, and it always felt like it was meant to be.
It does. It does. While we're speaking of mothers, Tanya, you make a tremendous impact in this film in a very brief amount of time on screen. Can I ask, did you and Micheal do some bonding, or how did you approach portraying his mother? Did you spend time together?
Thank you, by the way. That's really kind of you to say that. We had some rehearsal time at the start. But then, so Sam shoots everything chronologically. Oh. And as you know, I appear like sort of 2/3 of the way in. So actually, I met Micheal at the start during rehearsals. And then I went off to do another job and then showed up on set about a month and a half, 2 months later or something. Sam looked surprised to see me. I think he forgot that he'd casted me. What are you doing here? So I think, I'm a mum of a teenager who's, and she's at an age where she's transitioning to another period of her life, which is quite significant. And this is very much what's happening with my character and with Michael's character. And so I think, those things, we just I think we spend a lot of time just looking into each other's eyes, didn't we, and just kind of playing the moment. Just being good scene partners together and trying to bring it to life.
Because from the moment...
look at his punum. Look at the little punum. So cute.
You are a mom, aren't you? Yeah. Olivia, I wanted to ask you, Hilary is a woman she has so much life, she has so much spirit, so much imagination inside of her that's been contained, it feels boxed in. And what is it about Stephen that unlocks something in her?
It's really lovely to watch it again and to watch someone comes into her world with a brain and a future and beauty, and it's like this sparkling light comes in and you can't take your eyes off him. Right. And you can see why she's drawn to him. And she sort of forgets what he might see, but for some reason he doesn't see what she's worried he'll see. He sees a kindred spirit or a mind and a gentleness. And I just love the fact that they have this friendship and this relationship. It's not what you'd all imagine would happen. And it is something beautiful that they have between you, and it's never going to last. But it's a lovely moment that they will both cherish forever, and they learn from it, and I love it.
Yes. It's beautiful to watch on screen. The tenderness between the two of you is just beautiful. Michael, I wanted to ask you also about Stephen. This is a young man facing all kinds of things, all new things in front of him. He's struggling for his future. He's the object of some racialized violence. Can you talk a little bit about how you approached putting all of this together?
For me, I obviously knew that, I was going to be working with some amazingly talented people, so I just wanted to prepare. So I remember when I got the job and I got back from filming somewhere else, I messaged Sam and I said, I need to sit down with you and talk about this character and talk about how I can, get into it. And we done that. We spoke about everything. And I had my acting coach, Gary Nurse. We was working very, very intensely, just trying to figure out the period, listening to the music, watching a lot of the films that were in the screenplay. And yeah, man, just going over the scenes to just let the words sink in. I think that was a lot of the work for me. But none of that can prepare you to actually being on set with Olivia Colman and Sam Mendes and Roger Deakins, you know what I'm trying to say? And Tanya Moody, by the way. So yeah, for me, it was just being so prepared so that I can allow myself to be present. And I felt like that was definitely it.
Michael has not mentioned one of his biggest challenges, which is at the beginning of the shoot, he turned and said, do you think it's important? I'm really kind of phobic about birds, so I'm not going to actually have to touch the bird. And we were like, no, you're going to have to touch the bird. And then he, like a true pro, he just trained himself. He spent every day with those birds. And by the end, he was like a bird whisperer.
Let's hear it for overcoming phobia.
It was a big thing for me, by the way. That was
a big moment. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sincerely, I mean that.
Someone understands. Yeah. It's true.
Overcoming any kind of phobia, maybe this is not the place. We'll talk later, okay? Yeah. So, Roger, if I could also ask you a question. This is the 5th film that you have made with Mr. Mendes. And I love the fact that this is literally and metaphorically a film about light. And so I wondered, what is it about the relationship that you have that makes you want to keep working together, but also there must be something that you understand about each other and the other's vision that makes you such a successful team?
I have no idea. No,
I
mean, the projects are just wonderful. When Sam sent this script, my wife James and I were expecting something totally different. And suddenly there's this script that seems to be written about a seaside town. I grew up by the seaside, and suddenly I'm drawn into a world that, I grew up in the 60s, young, growing up at the seaside in the 60s, but there were still bikers. And I remember getting beaten up by the sailors that came to town at the weekends and the nightclubs. And so I just suddenly read something that seemed very connected to my life, actually.
Right. Oh.
So, but why we get on? Why does anybody get on? You have a similar sensibility in a sense. Sam just wants to make films about real people and real situations and a big phrase, human condition, I guess.
Right. Well, you have done that here, and you've brought it here to Toronto, and I can't thank you enough, all of you, for spending time with us and bringing the film. Congratulations, sincerely. Thank you so much.